welcome to the Tea and a Butty podcast. I'm Dominic.
And I'm Erica.
And today's episode is all about top National Trust sites.
Yes.
That we have not visited yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
I've got a list of 5 here.
Okay.
Because, I mean...
We've been to some, not
We've
National
been to some.
Trust.
We've been to the John Lennon and
Yeah.
Paul McCartney homes in Liverpool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've been to things that we didn't know were National Trusts sometimes, you know.
Have we ever talked about the National Trust on this podcast?
I think we have.
Have we? Okay, well, just
because
for
I think
anybody who's just tuning in.
Just tuning in, you
has
don't know
no
anything.
idea
what's going on.
Has no idea what we're talking about when we say the National Trust. Just what is the National Trust?
The National Trust is, I'm actually not sure if it's charitable or not now, actually. It's a trust, basically, to set up.
Mm-hmm. Is it funded through taxpayer dollars? Do we know?
I'm not sure.
We haven't done research on this, you see, because that wasn't what this podcast was about. And then I just spring it on. I'm like, what is the National Trust?
Well, the National Trust, you see, I think it's funded through members. You can be a member of
yeah, probably.
Yeah, you have members, and
it's like an association.
It's an association,
yeah.
But being a member, you get into, I guess, all of the places that are on their books for free, which includes stuff like, national parks and all that kind of stuff, like the Peak District and all that. Which
anything
we'll
that the National Trust
Anything
owns.
the National Trust owns, you can get in for free, I think.
Yeah.
It may be just at a reduced price. I'm not sure. I haven't done the research on it. But yeah, National Trust is, and
I should really tell you beforehand things that I'm going to ask. Although, but this conversation, this podcast, it's organic.
It's all real. It's organic.
Yeah,
it's vegan. It's gluten free.
It just evolves as we're talking. Yeah, it's gluten free. It's a gluten free podcast.
It's gluten free, all right.
That's the new
no preservatives.
That's the new
no fake stuff.
Tea and a Butty podcast. We're gluten free.
We are gluten free. Wheat and allergy and all that, allergy free.
Oh my gosh. But no, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I definitely had only ever heard of the National Trust.
Because you don't really have, because I think we spoke about it before, because we were talking about, it's probably in one of these podcasts.
But we were talking
in these episodes that we were talking about something absolutely completely different, and we fell onto the topic of the National Trust.
Yeah, I think it might have been in the blue plaques.
The blue plaques, yeah, because the English heritage is a similar thing, but that's
yeah, just England.
England, yeah. So National Trust is all over the UK.
Yeah, I think I had only ever heard it from the Beatles song. I think that was the only time I'd ever heard of the National Trust.
The Beatles wrote a song called The National Trust.
No.
And they just sang all about the places in it. No, was it Happiness is a Warm Gun, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the line goes, which she aid and donated to the National Trust.
Yeah. And so that was the only time I'd ever heard of the National Trust until I was planning my very first trip to Britain.
Yes, you're planning your very first trip to Britain.
Yeah, and I wanted to go to, I don't know how I knew that going there was a thing, actually. It's been so long ago now, I can't remember. I must have just
asked me.
Or I must have just Googled... Beatles sites in Liverpool.
Was a thing back then, wasn't
I
it?
must have just Googled Beatles sites in Liverpool, and it was like, oh, yeah, you can go actually visit the houses that John Lennon and Paul McCartney lived in.
Yeah, they grew up in, yeah.
Lived in when they were
teenagers.
becoming
just before,
Beatles.
Yeah, well, yeah, they lived there, because, John lived there with his Aunt Mimi for a while. And this is on topic because it's a National Trust house. And I didn't include it in the thing because...
It's not one of the top sites.
It's not one of, one that I think everyone should visit.
Yeah.
Because, you'd have to be
these are just your top sites. These are not an official list of top sites from somewhere.
No, I've kind of amalgamated it.
Yeah.
From several, and I've whittled it down to 5 because there's so many National Trust sites. We could be here for we could talk about each one of them
we could
in
do.
a podcast.
Well, we could do another.
We could have got 5 podcasts out of this, actually, or episodes.
We could probably get another episode out if somebody wants to know more sites.
Do you want to know more about National Trust sites?
Anyway, get back to your
Yeah, but anyway,
topic.
John was living with his Aunt Mimi.
Yeah.
Up until they became the Beatles.
Mm-hmm.
And then they moved to London.
Yeah.
So that was their last home in Liverpool, I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
And it's only John and Paul's houses.
To me, it's the houses they were
National
living
Trust.
in when they became Beatles.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you guys saw that James Corden interview where he goes to Liverpool and meets up with Paul McCartney, and Paul's kind of taking him around Beatley places, and then they end up at Paul's old house. That house is... what do you say?
24th
a member of the National Trust? What do you say? It's owned by the
National Trust.
Yeah, that house is owned by the National Trust.
By them,
so any and everybody can go visit there, and I mean it costs. You pay a fee. It's basically like a museum.
It's a museum. Yeah, they've preserved it to how it would have looked in the early. In the 50s.
Late 50s, early
60s,
yeah. And you can tour it, and so those were my first National Trust experiences, I think.
And you got picked up by them, because no one, with Beatles tours and stuff in Liverpool, if you get on, the Magical Mystery Tour or a taxi tour... Mm-hmm. They can't get you into the house. They can take you to the house and you can get your picture outside it, but you can't go in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's National Trust only.
Yeah.
And I think some of them have worked out maybe a deal, and I think National Trust are like, no, it's just us.
Yeah.
We don't want to work out any deals.
And you don't have to be a member to visit the places.
No, you don't. No.
Yeah.
I think if you're a member, you either get it for free or you get it at a reduced price.
Yeah. I think it's free.
I think it's free, too.
I think you pay, an annual membership.
You pay,
And then you go as often or as little as you want to in the year, to all the...
All the places.
Yeah, and there's tons of places, I think.
Yeah. Maybe there's something for your area and, you can't go to something that's more than 50 miles away or something.
But if you don't want to be a member... I mean, so you're paying a membership, so it's not free then, is it? But it's heavily discounted, I suppose.
Well, you're getting your money's worth, shall we say, if you're very big on going to these places.
Yeah. If you don't want to pay to be a member, though, you can pay just to get into each individual National Trust site all over the country. So if you want to go to Liverpool and visit John Lennon and Paul McCartney's houses, for instance, you just pay a fee and it's a tour and they take you to both places.
Yeah, you just book in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You don't have to, and you use your membership
but
card or whatever you get for it.
But I think if we lived there, or if we were going to be there...
I think if we lived in the UK, National Trust membership is a yes.
Yeah.
Because it's it's a day out, isn't it? You
yeah.
know? You want to go to Blickling Hall, which is where Anne Boleyn lived.
Oh, yeah.
You can just go there, for a day out. Or if you want to go to... I don't know, the Lake District or the Brecon Beacons or, something like that.
And what? I wonder...
The national parks.
I mean, again, this is probably something you don't know off the top of your head, but if you pay an annual membership, do you have a card?
I think it's a card.
And it's do you still have to book in? Because...
Yeah, you will. I'm sure you still have to book in. You can't just show up and go, I got my card.
National...
Maybe, though. It depends.
I think VIP, baby.
If you want to get your tickets, you go and get it. I think anyway. I'm not sure.
I mean, don't take us for
the
experts.
On the topic. Do your own research. Don't blame us when you look at, you go to someone, they reject you or whatever.
You're like, I'm National Trust. Yeah, VIP.
VIP. With it round your neck, getting into the castle.
With your shades on and your entourage. Anyway, you've made a list.
I've made a little list.
And this is based on your own opinion.
No, it's based on the top National Trust sites.
Okay.
The most popular and the most visited.
Okay.
Yeah.
according to
the internet.
their own statistics.
According to statistics, yeah.
Okay.
And number 1 on the list is Cheddar Gorge in Somerset.
I never knew this was a thing until recently, and now it seems like all the YouTubers and everybody's going there.
Everyone's going to Cheddar Gorge. And you know why Cheddar Gorge is so famous?
Why? No.
Because it invented cheddar.
Oh, that's where cheddar comes.
Cheddar was invented, yeah.
So it's not named after someone? Cheddar?
No, it's named after the village of Cheddar was called that, and the cheese, they think it was brought by the Romans.
Yeah.
The recipe was, and then they just started making cheese there since like the 12th century.
Oh, yeah.
I think Henry II was ordering it in bulk, at that time, because it was like this.
He was placing his Costco order.
It was. No, I saw it. It was like he was, from like, I guess like records from the time that have survived, they show like the.
Shows Costco receipts.
Shows his receipts, and he's bought like thousands of pounds worth of it, it's just like, and, because the Cheddar Gorge, there's a lot of caves around there, so that was, like, perfect for making the cheese, maturing the cheese and getting that cheddary goodness,
Cheddary goodness.
And they called it cheddar, but unfortunately, because in the EU, you can have, like, place of origin protection.
Okay, yeah.
Which means... a Cornish pasty can only be made in Cornwall to be called a true Cornish pasty.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like, cheddar was, this is cheddar cheese. It's all over the world now. Mm-hmm. I mean, what they call cheddar over here, you know, it can, it's not cheddar.
Yeah.
It's
but like HEB can't be sued for calling cheddar cheese cheddar.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those.
It's like champagne as
like
well.
Champagne,
right?
Yeah.
Like except I think you can't. Isn't that a thing? Like you can't actually call it champagne
in the EU. There's like EU laws. I think they apply for them.
Yeah.
And it's like if you make some certain cheese. I mean, true cheddar. There's only one cheesemaker left in cheddar.
One cheesemaker.
Yeah, because that's where they used to. All the cheese came from.
Okay, yeah.
I guess that's why it became called cheddar. It was like a common cheese.
Yeah.
Everyone ate it in the UK and exported it, and of course France had their own cheese, and everyone else, made cheese. Mm-hmm. But cheddar became so widely accepted, and of course the Pilgrims probably took it over here.
Yeah.
And started calling it cheddar. Mm-hmm. Making it even more yellow and flat so they could put it on their burgers, Process. But it's also the Cheddar Man is from there.
I don't know what that means.
He was a man they found in...
You're just making things up now.
I'm not. He was a
man they found made out of cheddar.
That's what you'd think. The Cheddar Man. He was the Britain's oldest complete human skeleton. He was found there in 1903, and he was estimated then to be over 9,000 years old.
9,000?
Yep.
How was there anything left of him?
He was a cheddar man, wasn't he? He was made of cheese.
It was a very sharp cheddar.
He matured lovely. And he was found in 1903. Yeah, he was from like the Paleolithic, and there's evidence of all that. The Paleolithic area.
That's so interesting. I didn't even know. There's
a lot of like archaeological, the Cheddar Gorge caves, and
you guys. One of these days, we're going to get a sponsorship from Surfshark because once again, I'm going to mention them, and we get absolutely
Surfshark,
nothing
mate.
for mentioning them. But we use Surfshark VPN, and we get to watch television shows from Britain. And we recently watched, what was that show called with Paul Merton and his wife?
Motorhoming with Merton and Webster. Suki Webster is his wife.
On Channel 5.
Channel 5, yeah, that's where they're all going now.
In Britain.
To do this stuff.
And he and his wife went through the Cheddar Gorge, which is like amazing. It's so beautiful, and I've never heard of it or seen any.
There's a village there, and then there's the actual gorge.
The gorge is like...
Yeah.
It's breathtaking. It is so cool. It's kind of like the Grand Canyon, I would say, only just green and just straight cliffs down to the road, and it's just wow. It looks so awesome.
Spectacular views there.
That was never on my list of anything I wanted to see in Britain, and now it's like
it's in the West Country. Somerset is, so
it looks so cool. Check it out, Cheddar Gorge.
Yeah, it's in Somerset.
Yeah. Google it.
Look for the village of Cheddar. Follow the cheese.
I can't remember if they really highlighted the actual village, but the gorge itself.
The village is just the village.
If you're into
the gorge is like wow.
Yeah, if you are into nature, it is really something to behold, and I'm definitely want to go visit that now. Yeah.
Because one day
how do they charge? Sorry, go ahead.
How do they charge? Well, I don't know. There must be a little ticket man.
You go to you go see the Cheddar Man.
I don't know if the Cheddar Man is still there. I think they might have put him in a museum somewhere.
Yeah. That's interesting. Cheddar Gorge,
there
must be maybe a vantage point somewhere, and you have to. Yeah, because all National Trust stuff charges.
I think it's like a site. So when you're driving in, when you want to drive through the gorge, they've got barriers and stuff up.
Oh.
Armed and stuff like that. If you try to get through this gorge, we'll kill you.
Or maybe because they've got hiking paths.
Yeah, they've got hiking paths. Yeah, which is a lot of what the National Trust.
So it's like a park. It's like a park.
It's like a park, yeah.
So it would be over here a state park or a national park, and you pay.
Yeah, there you go. But they're not maintained by one body, are they? Well, I guess they're maintained by the state.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. State parks and wildlife.
But it's not protected by a national, federal.
National parks are, yeah. National parks are federal.
So that's kind of like a national trust, then, isn't it?
I mean, I guess so, except the difference is national parks are just...
Yellowstone?
Yeah.
That's a national park, right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
But yeah, we've got state park. Yeah, it's quite confusing of you. I mean, it works because it's so huge.
But the parks, it's a park system. There's not... they don't own properties that, unless they're a site in a...
Yeah, because I mean...
Unless it's a site in the middle of a park. If it's part of the park experience, I don't know. I mean, I'm just completely making this up. But if you had some old cabin in the middle of a national park that was of some sort of historical significance, you would still probably the park would probably own it.
Okay, yeah.
But an old house...
There's no regulation on being listed.
In downtown Philadelphia, the national park system's not going to own that. For example,
wherever George Washington lived before he was president. Mm-hmm. Before the White House and all that,
Yeah.
That might... I doubt it still exists.
I mean, I don't know.
But if it did, then it would be a national trust property, and it would be a listed building, then they couldn't, if it
was in Britain.
If it was in Britain, yeah, it would be completely, it would be grade 1, it would be National Trust.
No, we definitely must have something similar. Let us know if any of you listening...
We haven't done the research for it.
If any of you listening know if we have something similar to the National Trust in the United States, let us know. Yeah. And we'll put the information out somewhere, on Twitter probably. Because, I don't know. I mean, the park system is separate from historical... buildings and monuments and sites.
It's kind of different in the UK too, because you have these areas of outstanding natural beauty, which are protected by that kind of trust.
Yeah.
But it's not the National Trust who.
Okay, yeah.
You've got the Chiltern Hills.
But you would still pay probably
the
a
Quantocks,
park. You would still probably pay a park fee to get into it.
Yes, yeah.
But it's going to some other organization.
I'm not sure actually. Yeah, I'd have to look up the area because I know they designate those, and I'm just is that just kind of a law of the land, and it's not
Yeah.
You know, it's like if someone wanted to build a house in the Chilterns on this part, they wouldn't be allowed because it's been designated a AONB.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, I'd have to look that up.
You're not asking me and expecting any kind of answer.
Because, I mean, it's the National Trust, you know, they just help, you know, like, take properties of historical significance and you know, national parks.
Yeah.
Like the next one, number 2 on our list, which is the Brecon Beacons.
Yeah.
In Wales.
Mm-hmm. Have I been there?
I've been there.
I'm asking because I get it confused. Yeah, I know you've mentioned it before.
I've been through it a couple of times. I mean, it's in like South Wales.
Pembrokeshire. Have I been there?
No, you've only really been to Carmarthen.
Okay.
You've only been really in Carmarthenshire and Swansea and Cardiff.
Yeah.
Which is the main ones. The Brecon Beacons they're a range of old red sandstone peaks which lie to the south of Brecon, which is a village in Wales.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes referred to as the Central Beacons, and they include South Wales' highest mountain, Pen y Fan, and, you know, it's like hiking. You know, like a lot of, and the Black Mountain is there as well, which is another spectacular thing. It's just like, it's like Snowdonia National Park, but it's the Brecon Beacons. It's
like Snowdonia, only not.
And it's got, you know, it's very much a case of you go to Snowdonia and it's like, oh wow, you know.
Yeah.
It's the same with the Brecon Beacons, but it's mainly for like walking and hiking and going up the Black Mountain and going up Pen y Fan. And a lot of like the SAS and the military use it for training.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like selection processes for the SAS, which is the Special Air Service, which is kind of like Navy SEALs equivalent over here, you know.
Yeah.
They use it for like training for that and stuff like that, and so it's like, because it's a lot of like, and the Duke of Edinburgh Award mentioned before, they go to the Brecon Beacons and camp out there and do orienteering and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and I mean, it's spectacular.
Is it on the coast?
No, it's kind of inland.
Okay. And
it covers a lot of like, it covers like a lot of Powys.
Powys?
Yeah,
don't say Powys to me.
Powys. That is like the region it's in.
Oh.
Yeah.
Powys is a county.
Yes.
It's a county, is it?
Yeah, it's a county.
Yeah, okay, now I recognize it.
Powys. What did you think it was?
I don't know, just the Welsh language.
Powys. I don't know what Powys means in Welsh.
It's P-O-W-Y-S, isn't it?
Yes, P-O-W-Y-S, yeah.
Yeah.
And Powys is like a huge county. It used to be, but anyway.
I don't know why that's cracking me up.
Powys.
I mean, I do, but it's an inside joke.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Number 3 on the list is the Lake District in Cumbria, which is in England. That's up the north, right before you get to Scotland.
Yeah.
And it's a popular holiday destination. It's like famous for the lakes, forests and mountains, or the fells, which is like a Viking word for mountain.
Oh,
you know, it's like whatever they said when they came as well. Yes, the fells. Yes, you know, like whenever they invaded. You know.
Yeah.
So we started using it, and it's got its associations with like William Wordsworth and other lake poets.
Yeah.
A lot of inspiration has been gleaned from that area.
Do you remember that?
Lake Windermere.
How come everything associates back to a show that we've watched? Do you remember that? It was like a mini-series, I think, with what's his name?
Christopher Eccleston.
Yes.
Yeah, he was up in the Lake District.
It was a murder mystery,
something. Yeah.
But that was the first time I heard of the Lake District, and the first time I saw like video footage of it, you know, aerial footage, and wow, yeah, that's another place I definitely.
There's a lot of lakes. It's kind of like a smaller version of the Midwest.
There's a lot. Yeah, I mean, I guess.
You know, like the Great Lakes up in like Wisconsin and.
I don't know about the Midwest.
Illinois
I would say. To me, it looks more like the Pacific Northwest,
Well, it's certainly got the climate for it.
It's mountainous. It's full of trees.
Yeah.
Because the thing about Britain, you guys, is there's not a lot of trees. There's just not. There's not the...
I lived in Wales, so I saw trees all the time. I don't know where you get this from.
I don't know, because it's like, okay, in the towns, the houses are all right next to each other. People don't have yards with big trees and stuff. In the towns, okay, and then you go in between towns in the countryside, and it's all just rolling hills of nothing. There's just bushes and just like a tree here and there.
For farmland, mainly.
That's what I mean. There's not just like trees everywhere.
Okay, we need to take Erica to some forests in the Lake District.
So in the Lake District, it's just like trees and trees
and mountains.
Yeah, it's what I've never been to the Pacific Northwest here in the United States, but it's what I imagine it to look like. It's very mountainous. It's very full of trees and rolling hills and then just lakes, and it's like the area.
It's the English countryside, mainly.
It's not the English countryside. It's like the English forest side.
English forest side. But yeah, no, with like people like Wordsworth.
Yeah.
And Beatrix Potter and John Ruskin. Beatrix Potter, she had a farm Hilltop.
Yeah.
And, that was the inspiration for, like, Peter Rabbit and all that, wherever she lived. It was like, oh, yeah, that's the 100-acre wood. That was her 100-acre wood. And when she died, she left Hilltop, her estate, to the National Trust. And she did a lot to preserve the land, much of what is the Lake District National Park, so... Yeah. So it looks preserved and everything, the woodland, and I mean, it's all in her books too,
Yeah.
It's all very Peter Rabbit-y.
Yeah, I mean...
Tom Kitten.
It looks like what I've seen on camera, and then, travel vloggers going to and stuff. It's like, it's very, like, cabin-y, it seems to me, like...
Cabin-y, cabin in the woods.
Yeah, like cabin in the woods. It's weird,
though. It's a popular holiday destination,
It's weird, though, because from what I've seen, like, there's not a lot of, like, cottagey looking places in the Lake District, like the more of the
it's
cabins.
Very Mr. Manny.
Oh, more of the cabins that, and I'm using quotation marks. They seem like newer, or they've been renovated. Like they seem very modern, like very LA to me. Like lots of glass walls and lots of windows, which obviously you would want a lot of windows when you've got that kind of scenery and view and everything. Yeah, but I don't know. I just think it's interesting that, I mean, probably there are some like little traditional looking cottages and stuff around, but I've just
They're just
never
deep
really...
in the woods, like Mr. Jelly's.
Yeah.
It's all quiet and nice,
Yeah.
And a leaf fall is like, oh, That's what I imagine, like a Mr. Men house, like in the woods, it's like that Mr. Jelly's house,
Yeah.
The next one, the fourth one, the Peak District is the other district.
Oh, yeah.
Which is mostly in Derbyshire. It's an upland area, peaks,
Yeah.
in England, and it's at the southern end of the Pennines, which is it's like a range of, like, mountains.
Yeah.
In England. Mostly it's in northern Derbyshire, but it includes parts of Cheshire, Greater Manchester, Staffordshire, and West Yorkshire and South Yorkshire, so a large area there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It can be split into the Dark Peak, where most moorland is found and the geology is gritstone, and the White Peak, which is a limestone area of the valleys and gorges cutting through the limestone plateau. So, it's like...
And there's not a lot of trees in the Peak District.
It's peaks, isn't it?
There's not.
It's peaks.
There's not.
The historic Peak District is larger than
cool.
the area of the national park, which excludes the major towns, quarries, and industrial areas. Yeah, because, I mean, quarries and industrial areas are going to cut down all that stuff,
and limestone, like...
nothing grows on limestone.
Yeah. It's so weird to me, though, just to change the subject a little bit back, or shift the focus back to the National Trust. Like, how can these large areas like this belong to the National Trust? I mean, I'm not understanding how. It's
whoever owned, like, the estate.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they buy stuff up. They say, okay, this is area of historical importance. We want to buy this much. And they're like, okay, we can't build on it anyway, so...
Yeah.
So the National Trust own it, and that means... I don't know if you can buy it from... if I was if it was a multi-millionaire and I wanted to buy a McMansion...
Yeah.
And... I wanted it right where I wanted it, and the National Trust owned it. I couldn't go to the National Trust and go, yeah, you're going to have to sell that to me.
But what I mean is, again, when I think of National Trust, I think of having to pay to get in somewhere.
Yeah.
To see something. And I don't...
Big wall around it,
And I don't... Well, and I don't know... Yeah. I don't understand how... I mean, because I know for a fact, because we've seen vloggers hike some of the footpaths in the Peak District. And surely they're not having to pay to do that,
The properties on there, like Chatsworth House, which is historically significant because it's the seat of, like, the Dukes of Devonshire and stuff like that, but it was also name-checked in Pride and Prejudice in the novel.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's been used as the filming location for that. And of course, they've got the town of Bakewell.
Oh, yeah.
In there, which is, like, famous. The whole village is National Trust, so...
Yeah.
And the tart. It's Bakewell tart, if you've never had it, it's quite nice.
Yes. He wasn't calling you all tarts.
But yes, I mean, it's famous for the Bakewell tart dessert, and it's like a charming village,
Yeah. Interesting.
Yes. The fifth one on the list is Laycock Abbey in Wiltshire. Laycock Abbey, or Lacock, as people wait. But it's Laycock Abbey, and it's in the village of Laycock in Wiltshire.
I've never heard of this.
And it was founded in the early 13th century by Ela, Countess of Salisbury, which is... Salisbury's in Wiltshire. That's where Stonehenge and everything is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say something about Salisbury steak there.
And Salisbury steak, yes, of course, Salisbury steak. It was originally a nunnery of the Augustinian order.
Oh, yeah.
And then it remained a nunnery until the suppression of Roman Catholic institutions.
Oh my gosh, this sounds like something I'm going to have to look up.
In England in the 16th century, and then it was sold to Sir William Sharrington, who converted the convent into a residence where he and his family lived.
I thought he was going to say
William Sharrington.
Okay.
And it was fortified and remained loyal to the crown during the English Civil War, but surrendered to the parliamentary forces once the devises had fallen in 1645.
This is so crazy that this is one of the top sites, because I've never heard of this place.
Even better than that, it has a long association with the Harry Potter films.
Oh,
because the cloisters were
What are
used,
cloisters?
Like the long corridors and stuff.
Okay, yeah.
Like the nunneries and stuff were used as interiors for Hogwarts.
Oh, yes.
And especially in the Philosopher's Stone
it's
and
where Snape catches Harry
Chamber of Secrets.
Under the vanishing cloak.
Harry discovers the Mirror of Erised, and when he comes out from Professor Lockhart's room after serving detention, and hears the basilisk.
Yeah, I know.
Scenes from Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince were filmed there, and Fantastic Beasts.
Wow.
And also interiors from the 1995 Pride and Prejudice was filmed there too. So.
Okay.
So it's like it's the go-to place for a period drama.
Who cares that it's from the 13th century? Like Harry Potter.
Harry Potter, everybody. Harry Potter.
Wow, that's so weird.
Yeah, but that's one of the.
That's more the type of place that I associate with the National Trust.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to do another one.
They own a lot of those kind of places. They own castles too. Yeah, I mean
we'll have to do another one of these. Let us know if you want us to do another one of these episodes where we talk about more places that are owned by the National Trust that you can visit when you're in Britain.
And if you'd like to donate something to the National Trust, you'll have to see if they'll take it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well that was interesting. Thank you for that.
Yes. Yes.
I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, we appreciate your support. Be sure to check us out on social media. We are at TButty, TEABUTTY on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And we'll talk to you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.